We're back, boys, gals. I know, I know. I said I was going to do it on Sunday, but then something got moved up, and I had to get that done for Monday, and then I forgot my notes for Monday, and here we are on Tuesday. But this will be a quick video. Um, I actually had like a bunch of other things I was going to talk about, but then I found something very interesting, and I want to tell you how and why this whole thing started happening. So, Vop Osley, who is the current president of the Indy City Council, was apparently at some kind of talking event. I don't know where, I don't know when, and I wish there was video on it. But he wants the Marion County to ask more of its developers. The standards help shape neighborhoods, landscapes in a way residents experience their city by requiring or incentivizing private developers to include various amenities in their projects. So, what does that mean? That means he wants to have a minimum standard of when they build something. You have an apartment complex that you're going to build. Hey, guess what? You can't get any of that city money, that taxpayer money, unless you add something crazy. Maybe a giant green space, maybe a playground, maybe a nice spot for the homeless to take a dump in. A pee pad of some sort, which is what I saw well, which is what I saw over the weekend in Monument Circle. They have all this turf around the plants, and I made a joke. I'm like, oh, that's just a pee pad for the homeless people, so they'll stop doing it in the middle of the street like a bad dog. You roll up your paper, you just smack them on the nose, like, bad bum. But anyway, so Bob just doesn't get it. He's totally out of touch with the working class. Me, myself, I am a blue collar worker. The most of everybody else around that I know or that has have to experience something is kind of in the working class, whether it's in a union, whether it's in the service industry, but all they really want, and I think the majority of us think the same thing. What we really want is somewhere that we feel safe at. We want somewhere where we can go to the bathroom, take a shower, we'll lay our head on a pillow. Like, listen, I've been homeless before, sleeping in a van in very cold weather so you don't get arrested for parking in a Walmart parking lot really does suck. All right. And when I laid my head on a pillow the very first time where I felt safe, where I didn't feel like I was going to get a knock on the window, where I actually felt warm, crazy. You don't know what you got until you've lost it. And this is what Vop doesn't understand. He is basically like a millionaire. I think he is partners in an architect company. He lives in a $500,000 house in a very prestigious neighborhood. And so I decided to go a little bit deep diving on him. I didn't go too deep, just enough, like a gentleman. And so I've been really curious of like his history because I've seen his finance reports before, and they're like $300,000 that this guy has in his account. And I really wanted to know when that whole thing started. And by the way, his name is not really Vop. It's like Isafarni Samuel or something. So if you go looking for him, just remember it's not Vop. So he gets elected, and I started going through his finance reports from like 2011 all the way to 2017, and it's only like a couple grand. And it gets interesting. 2017, $3,200. 2018, all of a sudden, $74,000. Crazy, right? 2021, and it kind of stays under that $100,000 threshold, like 80,000, 82,000, give or take. But then in 2021, he has $325,000. 2022, $345,000. And then 2023, about the same. And that's when he opens up his own PAC, his own political action committee, which is the Voice of the People PAC. Clever, Samuel. Very, very clever. But then, and this is where I really was struggling on what I wanted to say after this because I know the people on the left are going to be like, I can't believe you're doing this. You can't go after somebody's family, but it's important. So if you want to cry about it, cry about it. I'll mail you a tissue. Now, here we go. I'm not even going to name her name, all right, but it's Vop's wife. You can go and look it up. But I thought it was some very interesting questions. First off, she works for IU. Uh, I believe that she's in deep in the trenches of corruption. I'm just looking at my notes right now. She is on the board, or she like has something to do with the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago. She's part of the Lilly Institute of Philanthropy. I think that's what it is. And remember, Bob is kind of an idiot. So it's kind of weird that I don't know that he's married to somebody this connected. Um, he someone told me that they were having a conversation with him, and if you're watching this right now, you know who you are. And Vop did not know what a bond is, which I thought was very interesting because this was not even like 2 years ago that I was told this. So the wife, though, she testified in front of Congress that she was supporting the charitable giving during COVID, which tells you a lot because Vop was really leading the charge, the entire Hawkset administration, but you have to have the counselor, the president, to kind of lead the way of what the other counselors need to start doing because Vop gives to everybody. If you are a Democrat, he will give you money anywhere from a couple $100 to $1,000, maybe even more, depending, you know, how friendly you want to get with them. That's all I want to. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say that. Hey, maybe someone got recently divorced, and then they were like, "Hey, you know what? Now I have no moral qualms. I have no moral problems now. I don't have that ring on my finger. Hey, you know what? I'm not saying that it's for sure, but I'm just saying. Think about it." And I was like, "Well, this is interesting." And then I started going through some of his finance reports. And this is what I find. Brad Chambers actually donated to him. Yeah, it's only $500. I get that, all right? But the fact that there is a connection to Vop, because remember, Vop also helped fund Jesse Brown, the same Jesse Brown that wants pedophiles part of society, the same Jesse Brown that does not know what to do with murderers. And then also the Colts gave him $1,000. Yeah, I know it's nothing, but it does have connections of handshakes and hand jobs, and we have to remember that going into this election year. And we all have to start paying attention to campaign reports because I wanted to make sure that this was the same Brad Chambers. And I went and looked at his finance report, and it is Bradley B. Chamber. The address is different, but he's not at this address anymore. I'm not doxing anybody, by the way, so piss off because they don't live there anymore. And you can just go find their information on the candidate website. But I've been going to a lot of meetings the last 2 weeks. That's why I have not been making videos or as much as I should be, mostly because of that. Last week I went to a Wayne Township meeting. Today I went to a Drexel Garden Crime Watch meeting. Between that, Zoom meetings, and just doing a bunch of research and just getting ready for the primary. Because in April I will be doing door knocking, kind of prepping around for that and getting a walk list, which it is a lot of people, and I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do this. But I went to and I want to kind of segue into the laziness and the how do I say this in a nice way? Most politicians are stupid. Most politicians are out of touch with the working class. There was something else. Let me make sure that I have the right article. Where is this it? No, that's all right. That's all right. I'm not going to edit this. I'm just going to keep going. But I was at the Drexel Garden meeting tonight, and Jared Evans and Justin Moed was there. I wanted to make sure that I told Justin Moet that there is a town hall on Thursday night at 7 p.m. It's going to be me, Sarah Scheidel, and Mark Renselberger. Yeah. It'll just be us District 97 candidates. I doubt that Justin Mowatt's going to be there, but Jared Evans was there, and I'm always interested in what kind of bullshit marketing or bullshit propaganda they're going to be smearing or what they're going to be crying about. No surprise that Jared Evans was crying about the road funding. So this is what they're going to be talking about. I'm going to tell you right now, this is going to be their platform for this year. Anybody that has an election, any Democrat that has an election, this is going to be their platform in Marion County anyway. And they're going to say, we don't have enough road funding between, I think how much they're supposed to get is actually half of what they're getting because of the lanes, and it only accounts for like certain lane types, but they did sign a bill last year that they got an extra $8 million. Well, here's my problem with all of this, which is what I talked about in the last video. If you have a limited amount of funding, why would you spend any amount of money on wasted DEI training? Anybody? Anybody? No, because you wouldn't. Unless if you were to get that money and you have to have DEI training. What I mean is, everything has strings attached to it. This is why the whole ESG thing is a mess, because anytime you get money from the government, there's going to be something attached to it. And I'm thinking, I don't have confirmation on this. This is just a theory of mine. I'm betting I'm not too far off, though, that they had to do DEI training also to get that money, which is bullshit, honestly. But what are you going to do? But he kept crying about that, and then he was talking about he. I'm surprised he didn't just dive right into it. But he was talking about, it's like, when I was younger, the spring wouldn't come until like April or whatever. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not from here. And he's like, the weather's changing. The hot mix plant isn't supposed to turn on until later in the spring. And now we were lucky to open it this early. And I was like, hey, guess what, pal? That's what's going to happen. You are going to have to get creative with this ways, and don't be blaming climate change, all right? Because it's such a low IQ argument, and we all know if there is any amount of climate change, it's so small. And if people really cared about climate change, there wouldn't be private planes. People would not be moving to the coast and building new houses on the coast because they think that it's going to flood in the next 50 years. They just wouldn't do it. But guess what? They do. Obama did it. The billionaires did it. And who gives a damn? We know that they're not serious about it. But update on the campaign too. I am really going to be pushing for a town hall or a debate after the primary because I got a feeling Justin Moed is going to win. I mean, I don't think Scheidel has a chance at all, but also, who would have thought that Jesse Brown won? But also, Scheidel is not doing door knocking, basically has no money at all. And if you're not door knocking and if you have zero money, and you're kind of screwed if nobody knows who you are. I mean, fortunately, I have until the general to do everything, but I encourage everybody to email Justin Moed, call him or whatever, and just now don't harass him, obviously, but just ask him, hey, why don't you want to do a debate? Why don't you want to have a town hall? You're a 12-year incumbent and it's your election year. I mean, shouldn't you be bragging about your accomplishments instead of, hey, we're going to be having a free tree giveaway in Garfield Park? And this is where I think like the Democrats and the boomers, he really like, I don't know what it is, but for some reason I felt the energy in the room shift when he's like, "Oh, we're gonna have 250 free trees in Garfield Park in whatever date next month," and it was like, and the empathy from the boomers, and they're just so whipped on that, and it's so annoying. It's like, what have you done? And then they'll just blame me. It's like, well, it's a Republican supermajority. I know I'm kind of like rattling on right now. We all know this is exactly what will happen. But we have to get to the point of, it's like, well, what have you done that makes you represent me? How do you represent me, and what have you been bringing to the table? Because two of your bills were really much bullshit. You had one where a misdemeanor or a felony would get changed into a misdemeanor for child neglect, and then you had one that was just wanting to have video game gambling. Really? Really? You know, there was the road funding one too. But guess what? If I introduce that bill, if I help push for that, I have a higher chance of getting it done because I'm a Republican. You know? And besides, there's going to be something extra special next year. I already feel it. There's going to be a lot of craziness going on, especially with this whole governor's race. The next Whitty review, I will be talking about the governor's race. And where I rank right now. So far, Brad Chambers is dead last. All right, he is a total plant. He is. I think he's corrupt. And if I see moderate Democrats liking this guy, there's a problem. It's kind of like when Jesse Brown was complimenting Todd Young today. Very weird stuff. But that's all I got for you today. Real quick video. If you have any comments, suggestions, or what you want me to talk about, hey, if you want me to talk about something and give my opinion, I'm totally game for that. But until next time.